always talk about muscle cars on this show. Classics aren't something we cover a lot. They are simultaneously nostalgia, remembering when, and a blank sheet for you to make your own.
Some people say, oh yeah, I'd love to modify those. Others say, I would keep it completely stock. I would keep it fully original. I like that look.
These two do a good job of representing both of those eras. This 1968 is almost fully stock.
This is pretty much all original, and I say pretty much because there's things you gotta do to it that are not quite original. But it keeps it running, and it keeps it that same feel.
This is Jessie's car. She and her husband Ty have been keeping this car as one of the cars that will probably never leave their garage. Jessie's dad got it for her when she was about 15, and they worked on it for a year, restoring it, making it run so that it could be her first car. Great father-daughter bonding there, and not an uncommon story.
This is our shooter Chance's car. Chance has owned this car since he was 14 years old, and he's inspired on his build by those vintage Trans Am racers, except his inspiration is modern parts and doing the build on a budget.
So this is the same and yet quite different. I am now in a year older car. This is a 1967 Mustang. And this is representing the Restomod part of the world. Restore and modify.
As close as they are together in model years, 67 and 68, they are worlds apart. There's so many differences between these two.
The car you drive every day should be fun.
But it's got to do the boring stuff too, like commute, be affordable, and run your errands.
You can have both, and we'll help you find it. Fun to drive cars and great driving experiences for everyone.
On Everyday Driver.
Brought to you by Covercraft.
You kind of have to like the look of these old Mustangs, though, I feel like. This is such a classic American shape. The world over, this 60s Mustang shape just makes people smile. This is Americana on four wheels. It's practically the flag, apple pie, and a 60s Mustang.
Even though both the 67 and 68 cars are still part of the first generation Mustang, the 67 represented a genuine redesign of the very first car. Both cars grew in size just a little bit. Proportions for the Mustang are absolutely crucial. Very little differentiates the 2 years.
Even though the cars look pretty similar, just between the 67 and 68, look at the vent in the door panel. The gas cover is different. A lot of little details on these cars changed every little year, and the guys that know these Mustangs can tell exactly what year it is.
The sheet metal is pretty much the same. It's those little details that separate the two, and if you're building up your own car, you can actually choose the side lettering, whether it's block or script, and what you want to do with the side scoops. I think it can be argued these 2 years best represent what a classic Mustang should look like.
Look at the interior of this car. This piece of metal, this signature element, is on today's new Mustangs. You can see the bones of where modern Mustangs came from. It's this car. It's fascinating to me that this is still influencing new cars. This car's 50 years old.
Now, one of the things he has done is a fully new gauge cluster. It's actually GPS based. So your speedo is now not connected to anything the car's doing. It's connected to GPS, which is pretty cool. They're good, readable, usable, helpful gauges. That is the most modern thing in this car. Everything else, as you can see, is very much, let's just call it in process, shall we? So there are definitely things that are going to have to happen for this to become even more of what it's supposed to be. But that's the thing about a Restomod. It's constantly in process.
Everyday Driver is brought to you in part by Brush Hero.
Ah yes, carbureted V8s. Good old 302 with a 4-barrel carb. Listen to that sound.
It gurgles and pops, and it takes a minute, and your throttle travel is going to be all over the map to try to get the engine to do exactly what you want.
This car was pretty well equipped from the factory. Has the 302 Windsor V8, called the 5.0, but technically it's a 4.9. It's got the 3-speed auto that's very noisy.
Modern cars have got 10, what is it, 15, 20 now by the time you're watching this. This is 3 speeds. You only need 3 gears. That'll be plenty. You'll be fine. Sit down, relax. We got 3 speeds.
Think about the speed limit in America at this time when these cars were conceived and built. And think about what modern tires have done to extract performance out of cars.
There's an extra line on the speedometer in this car. Everything above 70 has got like an extra warning yellow around it. Like, I don't know if you want to go there, but best of luck to you. This is the original engine on this 68, and once about 25 years ago, it suffered a small engine fire. The family that owned it at the time just put the fire out, parked it, and left it for 20 years. Jessie and her dad bought it, did a little bit of restoration, not much, mostly just cleaning out the engine, putting in new plugs, firing it up, and guess what? It ran. Same engine in this car today.
Think about that. An unrestored 50-year-old V8 engine that just runs, and it pulls hard, and it gives you everything every time you get in it.
Hey, the gas gauge stopped working. That's happened a couple times. It's horrifying. You look down, it says E. It's not E. It's got 3/4 of a tank, but according to this, I'm now out. Okay, classic cars.
Apparently you just have to jiggle the key while you're rolling. It's an inexpensive part and it doesn't take much work, but that's the thing about classic Mustangs. There's always going to be the thing that needs attention. You gotta pay attention to that. And well, while I'm in there and I've got that part off, I need to go ahead and correct the name the part, name the thing that you want to do.
So obviously Chance's primary concern with this Restomod has been performance and not looks. This car ended up sitting on blocks in Arizona for a decade. It wasn't until 2013 that he actually got it running well enough. He drove it year-round in Utah, but he blew the engine. He was originally going to put it in the same kind of 302 that was in there before, until he found a 1991 Mustang GT for $1,000. So then he had a Fox body parts car to Restomod this one.
He's also taken the C4 automatic transmission that this car had and replaced it with the T5. That is the transmission and it's great. Snickety snick. It just feels solid and mechanical. It's wonderful. Now this car is pushing about 320 horsepower, weighs about 3,000 pounds, and it feels genuinely quick.
Significantly faster than that other Mustang. Of course, it's got more than 100 more horsepower. 0 to 60 in this car has dropped to now 5.5 seconds or so.
Listen to that.
Wow. That feels really fast in this car.
You can feel the tires curl under and then you go through the corner.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Griot's Garage. Use the code EVERYDAY for 10% off your order.
Handling in this 68 Mustang, well, you realize that we've come a long way. This has recent bushings. It's got updated springs and sway bars. I mean, anytime it's needed anything, they've put it back to factory spec. As a result, what you have here for handling is quite a bit of body roll, followed by chassis settling and a little bit of, okay, yeah, we're gripping now.
It's an entirely different driving experience and you've got to adjust your driving style to do it. Because as soon as you turn in, there's nothing there. I mean, look at this steering wheel play. We're going straight. I'm still going straight. Nothing. It's not until you turn a little bit more and then the entire weight of the car throws itself onto the tires. You can feel the tires curl under and then you go through the corner. And so therefore there's character.
Driving this car is not a precise or exact sport. This is not basketball with set rules and you can hit or miss and you have to abide by the rules. This is more like surfing. You're just kind of riding with whatever's been given to you. You're finding the balance and you're kind of trying to go with it.
It's also got assisted steering, which is so light, sometimes I can't tell what the wheels are doing. It's only by the nose going in different directions that I can tell, okay, the car's turning, all right.
Hang on to the wheel. Will it through the corner. All right, we got a full transition here. Here's the back of the S-curve. Oh, tire squeal, all right. We're acting like a sports car. I like it.
Unless I was building a show car, I don't think I would just keep it like this. I want it to perform better. I want it to do stuff. I want to correct that body roll. And as much as I love this car, I would go for the Restomod.
This Restomod Mustang handles completely differently than that mostly stock 68. By comparison, this has very, very little body roll. It has some, it's an old car, but it feels pretty taut on its suspension. It hunkers pretty well. You'll notice, of course, this Mustang's been lowered. This also has something called the Shelby drop, which is a lowering of the control arms. Carroll Shelby, as the name suggests, used it on his race cars. It gives the car a little bit of a front rake. Modern tires on here, larger wheels, better sway bars. The handling is starting to resemble a modern car in feel, and you can see that from here, this could become a car worth tracking.
Chance's goal with this car is to make it hang out with Boss 302s and Mustang GTs on the track. This car originally was spec'd with power steering, and it's been converted back to unassisted steering. It's horrible at low speeds, but I'm feeling everything. There's a lot less play in the steering wheel. I like that I'm wrestling something. I like that I don't have time for anything else but just shifting and steering. That's really it. And even though there's a lot of fun cars that are out there, it's hard to extract this feeling out of new ones. You have to go back. You have to go old school.
You can see where this car is headed, but that's kind of the problem. You find a Restomod like this, and the owner will happily show you his list of everything he's done. But the problem is there's another list, just as long or longer, that is everything they want to do. Once you start rethinking an old car like this, it kind of never ends. Little tram lining under hard braking, but it works. I keep having to remind myself, no sport mode, no traction control, no ABS, no nothing on this car. It's like just me in the landscape and I'm wrestling a wild animal through this road. Wow. A little more brakes would be appreciated. Oh my dear God. Oh my dear God. Okay, yeah, need more brakes.
I'm astonished by the character of these two cars.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Covercraft. Use the code EVERYDAY for free shipping in the US.
These cars are so close together, but they exhibit such different personalities. I'm astonished by the character of these two cars. The classic Mustangs are the car that will never die. These cars are only going to be passed down and handed down and sold to people who appreciate them. I think if this were my car, I'd just enjoy it just like it is and bask in the adulation of everybody who wants one.
Mustangs like this are kind of like an old watch that's been in a family forever. Everything may have moved on and yet you don't care. And when you drive it, you feel like you're in another place. You feel like you're in another time. They are rolling time machines. It seems so cliche to say that, but it is so very true. Yeah, on this road right now with these trees and no other traffic, I could be 50 years ago. It's not quick. It doesn't handle very well. It's very loud. It's rattly. It's old. It's just plain old. I still think you'd sit here and smile. I think you would. I mean, not cross country, you understand. But I think in general, you'd sit here and smile.
You'd be surprised at the number of minivan driving dads who give these cars this long, wistful look as they drive by our chute. And they're just looking at these cars.
This old Mustang is endearing, like your favorite elementary school teacher. You just have fond memories, spending time with them. It's kind of a good sensation of that was a fun time. But this isn't the girl you take on a hot date. This isn't something you fall madly in love with. It's just something that gives you a warm, nostalgic feeling. At least that's my take.
This car is trying to unscrew itself the entire time you're driving it. During the course of our shoot, the screws fell out of the license plate on the rear, so the license plate fell off. When I tried to get out of it and pull the interior door handle here, the handle came off in my hand, and the front left caliper lost a bolt and rubbed up against the wheel while I was going pretty fast.
Well, your brake handle came off. Smelling something. Pretty sure that's oil on exhaust components. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. That's what that smells like. I'm sure that's on the to-do list, along with headliner and, you know, a few other things. I love the feel of the old cars. I love the look of the old cars. The mechanical nature intrigues me. But I wanted to perform like something modern. That's what Resto-mods can give you.
Canyon roads are almost boring in other cars. They're an event in this one. I would build my Mustang just like this. It's almost like you can never stop working on this. It can never be done. Because if it gets done, then you're gonna wonder what's next.
It's a project. It may never end, but it is fun. What I like about this is actually bigger than just classic Mustang. This is about classic cars.
Yeah.
Who are you? What
Sure.
person are you? If you like classic cars, are you the stock or are you the Restomod?
Well, can you imagine yourself owning either of these cars?
I like where this is headed. I like where Chance's 67 is headed.
Yeah, I love
The finished version of this, the Resto-mod idea, be it a Mustang or be it something else, I think that's much more me. I drive that one and I respect it. And it feels like a time machine.
Yeah.
But I want it to perform better than it can.
What are you saying? You can feel the 50 years of
I can feel the 50 years
technology?
of lots of things. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And cars have come so far in this time period, they become so exact. These are not exact or precise.
Yeah.
But with the Resto-mod idea, I can see it from here.
Well, this speaks to all kinds of comments that we have gotten for throughout the years. Take a car comparison, and people will say, well, that car would have won if you had only done this brake or that supercharger or that suspension component or whatever.
Yeah.
Here we are kind of feeling it. I'm with you though. I like where this is going. I like that Chance, our shooter, is really taking his time to sort it out as he's going through. I'd take the classic, but I want more out of the driving experience because it's letting me down just because of the age.
I also think this comes down to what kind of driver are you. You and I cannot resist a back road like this. We have to drive hard.
I know.
I had to hear tires squeal. I had to push them hard and see what they do. And that may not be your life experience. You may drive somewhere where it literally all is it's just a checkerboard of stoplights and you just want to enjoy. And then that's a time machine and it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's just not how you and I drive. I love that these represent, just in the Mustang chassis, a year apart, they represent everything that's possible. And then what do you want for a classic?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's
The good news, these cars will always be around. So kind of who are you? What do you want out of your classic car? I love this car, but I would keep working on mine if I had it. So therefore, slicing it thinly, this is my number 2 choice. But I think it's still awesome.
But it's not a sports car. It's just, we've moved on too far. We've moved on so far that this now feels like it's old. And it is. And that's okay.
driving this car makes me want it. It's inexplicable. It's a feeling, really. It's taken me to a different place of how I want to drive. I'm just grinning. I love this thing. I want it.
I'm not a project car guy, and I'm not really much of a classic car guy. But of these two approaches, I think Restomod is more me.